On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, good teams take down lesser competition, which the Raptors did this weekend. They also win when major guys are injured, which they'll have to start doing tonight.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, November the 24th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. It's 100% free to join us. A great place. Come talk ball with friends. It's lovely, especially when the Toronto Raptors are winning the basketball games. Please be part of our listener community. Again, 100% free to join. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And we're here on a Monday edition of the show, getting started ourselves with a look at a pair of Raptors wins over the weekend. Scheduled wins, if you will, against bad competition. The Washington Wizards, they are horrendous. They are one of the single worst basketball teams I think I've ever seen. The Raptors took them down by 30 points, including a 48-point third quarter where they blew it wide open on Friday night. And then the Brooklyn Nets, a little spunkier, a little more well-coached, certainly, than the Wizards. Gave the Raptors a pretty good punch, but the Raptors close it down in crunch time, as good teams do. And that really is the prevailing takeaway here. We're going to get into the RJ Barrett injury and why, good teams also win when their major guys are hurt, and they will have to probably make do without RJ Barrett for at least a little bit here. Suffered a knee sprain in last night's game. Still no word at the time of recording what the outlook is on that just yet, but certainly that will probably come out sometime today as the Raptors get set to play the Cavaliers tonight. We'll get into that. We will get into the good, the bad, and the from the weekend that was. But bringing it back to sort of doing good team stuff. The Raptors very much doing good team stuff right now. And, look, all of the numbers suggest they're a good team. They're 12-5. They've won 11 of 12. They're number 5 in the NBA in offense per clean the glass. They are 6th in defense, which is crazy. They're going to the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. All of these things suggest the Toronto Raptors are good. And the manner in which they beat teams that they should obviously beat over the weekend, sort of two very different wins in terms of complexion, but very much the stylings of good teams. On Friday, the Wizards, terrible, awful, no good, and complete domination from the Raptors. After a bit of a sticky first half, no doubt, the offense didn't look great. They totally come through, put that one away. Scottie Barnes, that third quarter, he played 14 points, just causing havoc everywhere. Really, really impressive stuff. The playmaking of Emmanuel Quickley and Jamal Shead in that game, really impressive as well. 17 combined assists to 0 turnovers. That's pretty awesome. You had Brandon Ingram doing his shot-making thing. Mamu going nuts in that game for 23 points. He probably left a 30-burger on the table, considering the amount of missed bunnies he had at the rim. He was awesome in that game. A cool, easy 24 for RJ Barrett as well. Good teams take out the trash, and the Washington Wizards are the NBA version of Love Island USA. They are utter trash. And unlike Love Island USA, I don't like to watch the Wizards. The Love Island USA, though, I'll watch that stuff all day, all summer long. Anyway, yeah, that was like the classic good team beats up on bad team victory that, if you think back to the last really good, long extended run of good basketball from the Toronto Raptors back during the Kyle and DeMar era, they were money against bad teams. They would run them off the floor and take it to them, very much the way the Raptors did in that game on Friday against the Wizards. And then, look, there's also different types of good team wins against bad teams. Sometimes against a bad team, they give you a real punch. We saw this against the Hornets last week, and the Raptors held strong at the end. Some big defensive stops, some clutch offensive possessions. And I think we saw this again on Sunday against the Brooklyn Nets, who are not good. No way. They're terrible. This was a really ugly basketball game as well. I don't think the Raptors played poorly necessarily, but I think they just kind of played a little bit out of sync. It was a bit of an off night for touch with a couple of the guys. Emmanuel Quickly's floater wasn't going, missed some threes he'd usually hit in the early parts of this game. Scottie Barnes maybe a little bit off around the rim as well. You had Brandon Ingram missing mid-range shots that he's typically hitting, maybe doing a little bit too much sort of iso ball, hero ball type stuff from Ingram against the Nets. And credit to the Nets. They played really swarming, nasty defense in this game. They were all over the place. Michael Porter Jr. seemingly hit every shot. Tyrese Martin seemingly hit every shot. You don't expect to hear those things, and you'd like to shut those guys down in a perfect world, but this is the NBA. Even the bad teams have good players, and I think Jordi Fernandez does a great job coaching the Nets sort of above their talent level, and they are clearly playing some pretty good ball lately. They beat the Celtics in their previous game before coming into Toronto last night. So it's not a game that was just going to be handed to the Raptors because the Nets were doing their pesky thing, but I think even through the lack of flow, the stoppages from the officiating in this game, just like a poorly officiated game both ways. I don't think any team necessarily got the raw end of the deal. I just think the people watching the game got the raw end of the deal because there was just zero letting the dudes play. Let the dudes play, please. Especially in a game that's kind of competitive and fun. It just kind of had the juice zapped out of it because of the stoppages, because of the technical fouls, because of all of it. And even through all of that, the Raptors just get to the point of the game where it's like, okay, it's go time. We're going to shut this thing down like the good team we are. And they go on a 10-0 run late in the game, 11-0 run was it in the final couple minutes. Emmanuel Quickly, a couple of massive threes after a cold night. Mamu hits a big three on the wing as well. And they have a really nice string of defensive possessions back to back to back to back, get some stops, and they get themselves a victory, 119-109. And again, like not every win against the Dregs is going to be a resounding 30-point victory. You can't always have the Wizards across the aisle from you. Sometimes you're going to actually, see some resistance, which the Nets provided, but good teams don't lose games like that one on Sunday, right? Good teams actually kind of put it together down the stretch, which the Raptors very much did. And I get it. It's tough right now to sort of gauge fully where the Raptors are at in terms of the hierarchy of the league, the hierarchy of the Eastern Conference. Yes, they're the 2 seed. All the underlying data is very, very encouraging. I think they are pretty clearly a bona fide good team. What does that mean in an Eastern Conference where there seem to be a lot of those teams? Hard to say. They're only, 1 game up on the 6th seed right now, 2 games up on the 7th seed. It's still very clustered. It's still very close. And you're a couple game losing streak away from sliding down the standings. But I do think, as far as the whole, you can only play who's in front of you thing, which is very much the case for the Raptors of late. Like, it'd be great if they could play some tougher competition. They'll get some tonight in the healthy Cavaliers, or at least the mostly healthy Cavs. No Jarrett Allen, which is a big loss for them, especially against the Raptors, I think. But Darius Garland's back. That's an interesting thing for the Raptors, who we'll get into later in the good, the bad, and the not so great at containing guards at the point of attack right now. An interesting matchup wrinkle there. They haven't seen Garland yet this season. But, as far as taking care of the business that is in front of them, the Raptors are very much doing that. And I think if you go back through this win streak, maybe there are 3 teams in that group of teams they've beaten that you'd say, hey, that's like a good win. You can kind of put as a little notch in your bedpost of, yeah, that's a good one for us. It'd be great if there were more of those, but that's just not how the schedule is broken. But those games against the Bucks or the Hawks without Trae Young, where they've looked really good and really nasty defensively, the Cavs with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley both playing in that game, I think you can look at those games and say, okay, like those are the proof of concept that they're good against the good teams. What they've done against the bad teams is what good teams do, is just take care of business and, again, take out the trash. And they've done that. Things will get a little bit more difficult here. The Cavaliers tonight, they play the Knicks coming up on the schedule as well. Still a couple of stinkers in there too. I think they have the Pacers and the Hornets again. But yeah, I think you can feel pretty good that this team is kind of checking the boxes that serious, real good teams check. And I don't think you can accidentally win 11 out of 12 at any point in any season, regardless of the schedule, if you're not a pretty good team. You can't just like accident your way into that. You don't often see bad teams have 11 of 12 runs. It's just not a thing you see. And so even if they're not this level of team, even if they're not a top 5 almost team on both ends of the floor over the course of the whole season, they build up so much cushion between where they are and where will be acceptable for them to be that I think you have to feel pretty good. And again, they're just doing the stuff that good teams do. Good teams also win games when they're missing starting level players. And that is the reality the Raptors might be facing down now. As RJ Barrett unfortunately got hurt last night in the game against the Nets after a steal and a dunk and a weird landing. He was ruled out for the rest of the game with a sprained knee. What does that mean? We'll see. We'll get some doctor reporting today, surely. But in the meantime, it seems very unlikely he's going to play tonight or maybe the rest of this week. Whatever it is, we're going to sort through how the Raptors can navigate not having RJ Barrett, who's been damn good as a scoring and finishing option for this team. But I do think the Raptors are specifically set up to survive a loss of Barrett compared to any of their other starters. We'll get into why that is and run through the candidates to take over a starting spot in just 1 second here on the show. Today's show is brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. If you do, you're out of your mind. That is where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. I've talked about it plenty on this show. I hate doing admin. Life admin's the worst thing. I don't do much admin for business, but when I have to, when I'm doing taxes, stuff like that, it's a nightmare. I can only imagine how hard it must be if you own a small business and then have to manage all the admin on top of things. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place. And with Gusto, you get unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save you hours every week. It's really totally worth it if you are looking to manage all of the admin of running a business. Gusto is here for you. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedInNBA. Get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedInNBA. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The holiday season's right around the corner. That means you're probably hosting people at your place. What better time to get better seating, more cozy accoutrement to your living room, whatever it might be, than right now. And you can go do it all with Wayfair, and their Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine for less. A really wonderful time to go check it out. And best part, you've got to wait. Black Friday is this Friday, but you can already take advantage of the sale right now over at wayfair.com. Up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas for you to go and check out. Again, if you're hosting, you want some new cookware for your kitchen so you can make that delicious turkey or those beautiful side dishes, you can go and find the perfect cookware for you right at Wayfair. If you need more seating, you want some outdoor stuff, maybe some lighting, maybe some decor, maybe you want a little outdoor fireplace to have a little outdoor space when you have too many people in your house on Christmas Day. I know I very much appreciate having the outdoor fireplace at my house when people are over. Maybe you are in that boat as well. You can find it all over at Wayfair. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December the 7th. Go check it out. Back at it here on your Monday edition of Locked On Raptors, breaking down a couple of wins over the weekend against two not-so-good teams for your 12-5 Toronto Raptors. But it's not all good news. RJ Barrett hurt, sprained his knee last night in the second half against the Nets. And look, it's not great. It sucks to lose RJ Barrett, who's playing really good basketball right now, is cutting. His rim pressure, his freneticism within the offense, I think have all been super valuable and crucial to the success the offense has had early on in the season. You know, I wouldn't say he's been necessarily a good defender on balance, but he's trying harder. He's had his moments here and there. Hell, he got hurt on a play where he got a steal and went and dunked it. That was cool. Sucks that he got hurt, though. And look, I think it's going to be, a really interesting test for the Raptors early on here of their mettle and their sort of ability to fill the gaps when important players are hurt. This is what good teams do. Good teams don't just win games when they're fully healthy and everything is hunky-dory. They piece it together with key pieces out as well. You know, I think the Cavs are a good example of this, right? I know the Cavs have not looked great this season, but they're 11-6 despite having all kinds of man games lost to injury. Good teams get by when major players are hurt. And the Raptors over the last couple seasons, if you recall, basically you take any one of their important players out and all ability to win games was removed. And I don't think that's going to be the case with this team. And in particular, I think, again, while it sucks to lose RJ's scoring punch, I do think it's pretty inarguable that of the guys in the starting five, he is the easiest one to replace if you're the Toronto Raptors with the guys you have in-house. You think of the other dudes. Scottie's defense, irreplicable. Nobody can do what Scottie does on defense. If he's out of the lineup, they're in a lot of trouble on that end of the floor in particular, on top of all of his beautiful interior passing and advantage creation and all that stuff, finishing on offense. You have Brandon Ingram's shot creation and shot making. You can't replicate that, as we've seen. It's a one-of-one skill on this team, and it's wildly important. Jakob Poeltl's big man stuff, it's been the story for years. You just can't replace that stuff with the guys they have in-house, though, again, this year, with Mamu, with Colin Murray-Boyles, with Scottie playing the way he is, it's a little easier to get by without Poeltl, as they have for a handful of games this season. Still, you'd like to have Poeltl be fully healthy, because he's really important. And you can't replicate Emmanuel Quickly's shooting gravity either. You just can't. And while I think it might put a little extra burden on the starters to pick up the scoring with RJ out, I do think there are a lot of guys on this team who they can theoretically plug into that RJ spot in the starting five and keep things humming. And I think a little piece of encouragement, and this is not meant to sound like a negative against RJ Barrett by any means, because he's an important part of this team, and this team functions well because it has a lot of good players playing at a high level. But the Raptors right now on the season, they're a plus 2.7 per 100 possessions with RJ on the floor this year. That's great. When he's off, they're a plus 20.5 in all of the minutes, suggesting that they can get by without RJ Barrett. And I think the reason they can is just the wealth of options they have to fill in for him at that specific position, right? If this was a situation where they had no backup shooting guards, then yeah, you'd be in some trouble trying to fill in the place of RJ Barrett. But this is the team that accidentally became oops-all shooting guards over the last couple of years. And so there's plenty of ways they can go about this. And it's not just all shooting guards, right? I think they do have 3 shooting guard options, but there's also a point guard they can throw in there. There's also a big man. And I think they're all kind of interesting. I will say, they probably will play around with this night to night, depending on matchups, certainly. But if I'm picking one guy of Jacoby Walter, Gradey Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jamal Shead, and the big man Mamu, who we'll talk about, to just for one night to plug in specifically against this Cavs team, but generally speaking, I think it's Jacoby Walter, who had a really nice weekend, 27 points across the 2 games, just like really effective stuff from him in both the Wizards game and the Nets game in particular. I mean, the Nets game just couldn't miss a 3. He hasn't missed a 3 basically all week. Really encouraging to see. Sorry, he only had 3 points in the game. He had 11 against the Sixers. My bad. It was 1 of 1 from 3 against the Wizards, but looked good. Had some nice moments. Was a plus 20. But anyway, he had 16 points on 4 of 5 shooting from downtown in the game against the Nets, and he seems to have found his 3-point stroke. He seems confident in it once again. It was the Sixers he had 11 points against as well. And so like a nice run of 3 games here for Walter, and the offense being there 3-point shooting wise is great. I also think he just gives you the best defensive look against other guards among this group of guys. And that even includes Jamal Shead. I think the size and length of Walter, the footwork he has, I think he's a really good on-ball defender. And it's been an area the Raptors have been lacking. We'll get into that a little bit later too. But I think because the 3 seems to be back, I'd like to see Walter get a look there. And I think if the Raptors had their druthers, Walter would be the guy who comes in and sort of grabs that spot and becomes a real guy who can push RJ Barrett for minutes as the season goes along for closing opportunities, things like that. He hasn't done that so far, but again, over the last few games, he's basically gone perfect from deep over the last 3. I think he missed 1. And in that time, all of a sudden, he's shooting 44% from deep on the season and is second on the team in points per shot attempt behind Jakob Poeltl. Crazy how small samples work, but he seems to have found his footing, and the two-way play he brings to you, just really, really disruptive on the defensive end and long enough to hang with sort of quicker, slithery guards while also impeding their passing lanes. I think against Darius Garland, for example, tonight, you have the Mitchell-Garland duo. I would like to have Walter in there, just to have a little extra size, a little extra, again, good footwork. Maybe this is a chance to, sort of unleash him pressing a little bit, but we'll get into it. They could maybe stand to pull back on the pressing even more. But yeah, Walter's my pick of all these guys. But I don't think you can really go wrong with a lot of these options. Gradey Dick, probably the best guy for keeping the offense looking as it has with RJ in there, right? Just his cutting, his movement, his timing. The 3-point shot seems to be falling a little bit better. Really nice game from him on Sunday against the Nets. He was also really good. I thought, he had 6 points. He was 0 for 2 from 3 against the Wizards, but I thought he was, again, really effective. He just kind of makes the offense hum because there's gravity there and there's movement and there's dynamism. And I think his passing when he puts the ball on the deck has been really impressive. There was the notable one time where he missed a wide open Scottie Barnes into the rim in that game Friday, and Scottie let him hear about it. Great. Love to see that. Hey, make that pass. We're a good team now. You got to make that pass. But overall, I think Grady's been really good. And I think, as far as like the decision-making from him, when the ball comes to him, it's snappy, right? Drive, shoot. He knows what he's doing. He's making the call instantly, and it's usually the right call. There's no dilly-dally. It's been great. I think, again, I'd rather the defensive look of Jacoby Walter specifically against the Cavs tonight, but I don't think there's anything wrong with playing Gradey either. Ochai Agbaji was kind of dusted off a little last night. He's been in and out of the rotation. He's been hurt on and off as well this season, has not really made his impact felt whatsoever. And he's clearly just behind Gradey and Walter in terms of the priority of the franchise going forward. But, there was some signs and glimmers of life last night. Still can't hit a three to save his life. And that seems like it's a totally broken shot for him right now. That's not great. The defense, I think, with him, as always, kind of waxes and wanes. But, the nice kind of gliding finishes, a couple of those last night, a couple dunks, nice drives, using that first step that was really effective for him last year when he was so good at the rim. Maybe this is a chance to get him kind of back and reincorporate a little bit, feeling himself. The shooting is so off right now that I would rather just go with a guy who's feeling it like Walter over Ochai. But, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Ochai tonight. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw any of these guys. There's all kinds of fun options. Jamal Shead might be the sort of the fan favorite pick to go and start for RJ. And I get it. He's been awesome. He's been so fun to watch. And the Shead quickly backcourt has been really dynamic. Just 90 shared possessions so far this season, but they're a plus 15.3 net rating in those minutes. Really good offense, really good defense. They closed with it last night. It directly led to those 2 threes from quickly having that 2-guard look out there, freeing quickly up to play off the ball. Don't hate it at all if Shead's the pick tonight. Would not be upset. He's deserving. He owns. He's so good. He's been fantastic. The ball security, the playmaking, the rim pressure, it's all there. I just kind of think, rotation-wise, maybe it's tough to kind of uphold your preferred rotations with the bench if you're starting both of your guards out of the gate. It's not impossible. You can figure it out, but I wonder if they would just kind of leave well enough alone with how they're using the quickly Shead, point guards and sort of picking their spots to go with the 2-guard lineup as opposed to just kind of leading with it with heavy minutes from the start. But it's an interesting one. I wouldn't hate it. Again, more Jamal Shead in my life is never a bad thing. And then the sort of stealth candidate to start, who I don't think will start against the Cavs because I think it's tough for the matchup they're going to be up against with the guard play the Cavs have on hand. But you could maybe kind of just roll Jumbo and roll Mamu out there. I would love to see them play around more with the Yak and Mamu duo, a duo that which we have seen for 0 possessions so far this season. Nada, zilch, haven't seen it yet. I think there's something there to tap into. Again, it requires you to have probably Colin Murray-Boyles healthy to maintain the rotation properly. He's been in and out of the lineup. And, the way they've run out Mamu and Yak has been perfectly fine, and it's working beautifully. But a lineup of quickly Ingram, Barnes, Mamu, Pirtle, that interests me. It's huge, just gigantic. You got 6'8", 6'9", 6'9", 7 foot across the front line with quickly in the backcourt. That could be a ton of fun. Again, against the speedy guards of the Cavs, maybe it doesn't quite work. But with no Jared Allen tonight, maybe you just kind of bludgeon them on the glass with Pirtle and Mamu and Barnes. Wouldn't be shocked if we saw this one. Again, I think it's tough because who guards Garland, who guards Mitchell? You'll have quickly on one of them and then Ingram on the other, Scottie on the other. That takes him away from what you'd prefer to have him, kind of doing on the defensive end. Maybe it doesn't quite work against this matchup, but against other teams, that's a look I'd like to see, just to see how it looks. This is a chance here without RJ to kind of play around with some stuff. And I think the fact that you've got 4.5 credible options right now, sorry to Ochai, but if you have 4.5 credible options to fill in for a guy who's hurt, that's the real takeaway here. The team has real functional depth for the first time in a long time and options and different ways to play. They're in as good a position to withstand this injury as any injury on the team. You hope RJ gets back quick because he's been really good and fun. But I do think this is not the sort of 3-alarm fire that someone else on the team getting hurt might be. It's interesting, man. Again, we're going to get to see if they can continue to do the good team thing, which is get by when you don't have all your dudes, when you have to overcome some lineup adversity, which a lot of the other teams in the Eastern Conference have had to do already. The Raptors are going to be up against it now. And if they are a good team, as we all think they are, and as the math says they are, then they'll be able to pull through just fine with no RJ for however long he's out. But hopefully it's not too long. We'll come back on the other side, get into the good, the bad, and the from the weekend that was, including just my thrilled response to the return of good Raptors crowds. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride to the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And hey, American Thanksgiving coming up this Thursday. That means there's football all day long. And maybe you, like me sometimes, when I work for an American company, I often just get to hang out and have an off day on Thursday. And, I don't watch a lot of football, but if I'm going to watch football, it's going to be that day while I'm being slovenly on my couch, maybe ordering in some sort of festive special situation and eating myself to death while watching football. And hey, while you're doing that, throw some money down on the games that are going on. Spreads, maybe put together some parlays for the games over the course of the day. It's all there for you to peruse over at FanDuel. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So to FanDuel.com, sign up to play your first game with sign up to play your game, that is, with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Doer, who make, simply put, the best pants in the world. And right now you can go to the store in Toronto, brand new, 44 Ossington Avenue, and pick up some Doer jeans in person. And it's not just jeans. They have t-shirts. They have all kinds of stuff for you to go and wear and try on. And let me tell you, as someone who struggles sometimes with how clothes fit on my weird, misshapen body, not a problem whatsoever with Doer. The t-shirt fits great that they sent me. The jeans they sent me are fantastic. I've mentioned I have the fleece-lined taper jeans in black. They are very comfortable, and they're going to be fantastic for when I have to do things like yard work throughout the winter months. I got to do that today. It's chilly out. I got to rake some leaves before the snow starts to fall, and I'm going to be wearing those Doer pants because they are warm and they are very comfortable. And again, they have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, which is awesome. And they also keep their shape, which is not common when denim stretches that much. But let me tell you, Doer simply makes the most comfortable pants in the world without sacrificing style. Go to 44 Ossington Avenue, get your pair in person. You can mention my promo code LOCKEDONToronto in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at duer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's duer.ca/LockedOnToronto. Go get yourself some pants. Wrapping things up here with the good, the bad, and the It's the way around every single episode of this here podcast of the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing I liked, thing I didn't like, thing that's got me a little intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors hoops. And we got 2 games to pull from here, 2 games at home, and that's where I'll start. The good for me, Raptors crowds. They're back, man. And I felt this when they took down the Hornets with that dramatic finish on Monday. Felt it again when they were just completely running the Wizards off the floor in the third quarter. Felt it again last night. I mean, Emmanuel quickly shouted at the crowd last night. I was watching the game from home, wasn't in the building, but you could sense the crowd was just stoked to be watching the team win basketball games again. And by the way, secret also good is love that they're projecting the post-game walk-off interview to the entire audience in the crowd this time this year. It's a great addition to the broadcast. Love it. It just gets people juiced up. And yeah, quickly, shouting out the crowd after the game. Warranted, man. It's easy to forget when over the course of the last couple of years, when they're outwardly trying to lose for a couple years, just how great this home crowd is. And we're right in the sweet spot now, too, where tickets have yet to be super inflated because the team's good. That's great. You're getting lots of the sickos in there, which we love to see. Yeah, man, it's just really nice to see the crowds back and lively and excited to watch Raptors hoops because it's been a time over the last couple of years. And look, there have been games here and there. I remember the Celtics game last year where the Raptors beat Boston. And Scottie had a really big game. That was the crowd was juiced up for that. But you can sense there's some genuine excitement about this team and what they're doing now. And just stacking wins is just going to sort of continue to elevate that. And I think the crowd's going to be rocking tonight for the game against the Cavs, and can't wait. The bad for me, point of attack defense still leaving a lot to be desired. The game against the Wizards in particular, just blow-bys out the wazoo. They gave up an 81% clip at the rim in the game on Friday against the Wizards. The Wizards couldn't do anything from anywhere else on the floor. Terrible from everywhere else, but 81% at the rim on just a ton of completely unencumbered blow-bys. And I still think that they can kind of play with the dials a little bit when it comes to the aggression and when to dial it back. And I think tonight against the Cavs is going to be a really interesting one, right? The Mitchell Garland duo is going to punish you if you are way too in their shirt, if you're too overzealous trying to stop them. They are going to turn the corner against you. They're going to get downhill, and they're going to cause havoc. And I just think it's worth noting that the Raptors, in their sort of high pressure schemes, haven't had a ton of success. Synergy has them ranked as the 23rd ranked team in points per possession allowed on defensive possessions that they classify as pressure defense. It's not ideal. Whether it's half court transition, their pressure defense is giving up a lot of stuff. And, you're just this is why I think it's worth noting that the sort of defensive shot profile the Raptors are giving up, like at some point, teams are going to start hitting threes on them. At some point, there's going to be some pressure applied to the fact that they give up really good looks that other teams are happy to take at the rim, corner threes, whatever it is. Like at some point, they're going to get burned by a team that can kind of put together, taking down their sort of slowing down the Raptors offense, which has been really hard to do, and then also taking advantage of the defensive mistakes. Not every team is going to be able to do it. The Raptors are clearly able to outscore their problems quite a bit. They did against the Sixers, for example, last week, where they didn't have a great defensive effort, but they just scored like gangbusters. But against better defenses, like it's going to be a bit, the margins are going to be slimmer, right? And so I do wonder if they maybe dial back the aggression just a tad. Even again, pick spots, right? Against teams that don't have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, sure, swarm the ball, force turnovers, get at that handle of bigger wings, whatever. The Atlanta Hawks come to mind as a team like this. But against guys with just legitimately excellent guard play, I don't know. Maybe you take it a little bit easy and just play more conservative defense and trust that you can force misses with your length and your Scottie Barnes doing everything. Which, speaking of, let's get to the Is Scottie Barnes just going to mess around and win Defensive Player of the Year? He has been so good. And you couple the team performing well on defense. They're 6th in the league right now. Who knows how much that holds up? But Scottie Barnes right now, just kind of as a one-man cleaning crew for all messes that seep through the perimeter. He's just there like a sponge just to soak it all up. A very loud shot blocking sponge who sends stuff away with ferocity. It's been really cool to watch him just be everything for this Raptors defense. And look, for the next 10, 15 years, if Victor Wembanyama plays 65 games, he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year because he's just the best guy at defense in the league. But he's already missed 4 games. Who knows when he's going to be back from the calf injury? Who knows if he'll stay on the floor after he gets back from the calf injury with an early injury that he's picked up here in the first month? Why not Scottie Barnes, right? Like he's just been everywhere. And I think when you have the loud counting stats that he does, where I think he's still 2nd in the league behind Wemby in stocks, which is incredible. Also incredible that Wemby's still number 1 despite having missed 4 games, which is like a quarter of the schedule so far. He's ridiculous. He's the best defensive player alive, but based on the 65 game rule, I think Scottie's got a shot at this thing if he keeps on racking up these totals and the team continues to perform defensively. And it's interesting right now because the team is actually better when he's off the floor than when he's on defensively by the numbers. That's clearly noisy and hard to trust because when you watch the games, he is very clearly impacting everything defensively, and he is the single best defensive player they have. And he's been one of the best defensive players in the entire NBA. And I think if those numbers start to kind of move a little bit in Scottie's direction as well, you get the analytical case, the counting stats case, the team success case, that is the case for a guy to not just make all defense, but to very much be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. It's really cool stuff. He's been just ridiculous. Some of the blocks last night against the Nets, just absolutely nasty. But we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. As always, we'll be back again on Tuesday with Big V Vivek Jacob, who will be in the house tonight on behalf of the podcast to document what's going on with the Raptors and Cavs. I'll be at home watching that one, hoot and holler and all the stuff against a good opponent. Excited to watch them play a real team. It's been a minute, but it's going to be fun. And the challenge of Darius Garland being back in the lineup, a really fun and interesting one. Even if not having Jared Allen is a tough blow for the Cavs in this one as well. But yeah, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for supporting the show, following, subscribing, rating, reviewing. Join the Discord. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. As always, we'd love to see you there. And we'll be back again on Tuesday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Ugh.